listen closely, for within the realms of storytelling, we often stumble upon narratives that undoubtedly alter our perspectives. Have you ever experienced such a tale? This story might just be the one that sends shivers down your spine, making you believe that anything is possible. Allow me to confess, dear listeners, that even in my lingering skepticism, or what remains of it, there are stories that read differently, that are narrated with a unique cadence, weaving an altogether different atmosphere. Picture yourself in your own home, perhaps in a small makeshift studio, tucked away in a room brimming with books of terror and objects that seem to exude a certain energy. Yet, it is the stories themselves that truly leave behind an enigmatic energy, a rare vibe that one can almost tangibly feel. Are you ready to delve into this experience? To embark on this nocturnal journey? When there was nowhere to spend the night, few dared to stay the whole night there. As far as I know, only Lalo ventured to spend a whole night alone in that place, and he had no desire to repeat the experience. This is particularly noteworthy because my Uncle Lalo was a soldier who never shied away from a challenge. I remember a time when he went out to defend some cousins from a gang that was chasing them to our house. My uncle set aside his beer, grabbed a tire iron, and confronted them. He didn't need to say a word. They knew well enough to understand that even though they were 4, they wouldn't come out unscathed. So, picture this gentleman, the kind who faces everything without fear, trembling like a child whenever someone even mentioned the widow's house. The widow's house earned its name because this massive Ceylon tree was once the refuge for every woman in the family who, almost as if cursed, found themselves widowed in their youth. It was a place of both solace, and I have always been a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. I had never believed in it, attributing the tales surrounding that house to collective suggestion or to a contagious desire to believe, capable of making one feel strange sensations when visiting. I also considered that perhaps the eerie atmosphere could be a result of the profound sadness that dwelled within the house. Aunt Valentina, the first widow, had turned the house into something akin to a convent, welcoming distant and close relatives who chose to live in perpetual mourning and devote their lives to God. Those who resided there rarely ventured outside and were forbidden to form friendships beyond the confines of the house. It was, as I mentioned before, almost like a convent, but with stricter rules and more discipline. You might wonder, who in their right mind would agree to live under such conditions? Well, that is a valid question. Aunt Valentina possessed an immense fortune, more wealth than one could spend in multiple lifetimes. However, she never used it for anything other than the maintenance of the house and its inhabitants. The aura of the house was this story. Takes us back to a time when traditions were upheld with great reverence. It was a time when women, especially in places like this, found themselves at a crossroads when their husbands passed away. These women, who were not accustomed to working outside the home, suddenly faced a daunting reality where their world seemed to crumble around them. It was a time when support systems were scarce. Societal norms dictated their every move. But amidst these challenges, a unique practice emerged that provided a glimmer of hope for these widows and their families. Generations ago, a custom was established where each widow was granted a stipend. This allowance was not only sufficient to sustain themselves, but also to support upon reflection. I realized that the unease surrounding our family home stemmed more from long-standing grudges among relatives, as it belonged to everyone, and yet to no one, rather than from any genuine fear the house itself instilled. When my cousins and I coincidentally found ourselves in the same high school, an occurrence the house was filled with ghosts that the widows never left. When she told us that, stupidly, it made me laugh that my cousin believed in something like that. I laughed loudly. That was something I would expect from my mother, my aunts, or Catholic ladies who believed in God and spirits and such, but not from us. Someone like her, young, atheist, with a scientific perspective on everything. Mariano didn't laugh, but told her not to scare us, reminding her that we'd spent the last few months in that house without any issues. He suggested that if she wanted us to disturb her less while she was with her boyfriend, she should just let us know when she would be there to avoid bothering her. In the midst of our youthful bravado, my friends and I found ourselves facing a peculiar challenge. It was a night like any other, with the moon casting a soft glow over the quiet streets of our town. The air was crisp, carrying with it a hint of mystery and excitement. As we gathered in front of the old, dilapidated house that had long been the subject of eerie tales and whispered legends, a sense of trepidation crept over us. Nothing will happen. Let's stay here tonight. There's no school tomorrow, so we can check for ourselves that there's nothing to fear. No one else stays in this house because they're foolish, gullible. Probably why my Uncle Lalo no longer visits. He's too easily scared, my friend declared, his voice tinged with a mixture of uncertainty and determination. At that moment, we had no. The island was vast and heavy, casting against any sound that dared to escape or intrude. Not a single whisper from the streets could penetrate its aura. It felt as if we were enclosed within a bubble of silence, isolated from the outside world. The kind of silence made you question if any noise existed beyond its boundaries, and in that deafening stillness, the weight of our actions bore down on me like a physical force. I struggled to close the old, creaky door, its hinges protesting with each inch of movement. With a final push, it shut with a resounding thud. Have you ever found yourself performing a seemingly mundane task, only to realize in that moment that your life was on the verge of a monumental That was how I felt as the latch clicked into place. An immediate pang of regret flooded my senses, coupled with an overwhelming desire to retreat, to back out like a coward. What did it matter, though? And here are the widow's ghosts, right? He said, turning around. He was enduring, so that she would accept it, and we could all leave from there. I think he realized my intention to blame him, because, with eyes that did not hide his anger, he replied that no, he was going to stay. We were all going to stay, and that we would spend the night in that house. It was a good night to see a ghost. I had no idea how true that statement would be. We settled in the living room. That's where we would sleep. The second floor, where the rooms were located, was even darker and more eerie. This way, we could get up to use the bathroom without separating too much. All right. Does anyone know a story about any of the widows? Today, I want to share with you a captivating story that has been passed down through generations in my family. It revolves around the intriguing world of love spells. Let's dive into the tale of Marta, a young woman deeply captivated by Ferran, a highly sought-after young man in their town. Ferran's charm seemed to attract almost every girl of his age, but it was Marta who held a special place in his heart. Their days were filled with shared walks, hand in hand, through the serene paths of the local park. Ferran would narrate his adventures, painting vivid pictures of the towns he had explored, the cities he had wandered through, and the diverse people he had encountered in his journeys. The night before, Ferran showed up at the park, strolling hand in hand with another girl, a stunning one, whom Marta had always secretly envied. She knew she couldn't compete with her, but Marta recalled a lady living on the outskirts of the town who charged a few bucks for love spells and witchcraft, willing to do anything to win back Ferran, and, most of all, to defeat her rival this time. Marta sought her out, paid the agreed amount, followed the rituals meticulously. One night, at the entrance of the cemetery, she met this woman, as arranged. The lady handed her a sachet of herbs and instructed her to give it to Ferran in a tea. The healer told Marta that she had to figure out how to make him drink it. She couldn't do more than that. She warned Marta that love spells were to preserve love, even if it was just a glimmer left. But they were extremely dangerous, fatal if there was never a true feeling before. Marta was convinced that those afternoon chats, once upon a time, in a quaint little town nestled among the rolling hills, there lived a young woman named Marta. She was known for her infectious laughter and kind heart that warmed even the coldest of souls. Marta's days were filled with the simple joys of life, tending to her garden, baking bread that filled the air with a comforting aroma, and exchanging pleasantries with her neighbors. Yet, despite the contentment that enveloped her world, there was a lingering yearning in her heart for something more. One fateful day, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. Marta found herself wandering down the cobblestone path that led to the workshop of Farah, the town's skilled craftsman. Farah was a man of few words, his hands speaking volumes through the intricate designs he carved into wood with the precision of a master artist. Marta had admired him from afar, his quiet demeanor drawing her in like a moth to a flame. Whoa! As she stood outside the workshop, a gentle breeze ruffling her hair, Marta mustered the courage to approach Farah. With a fluttering heart, she pressed her lips to the letter she held in her hand, a silent declaration of her feelings. To Marta, that kiss held within its soft embrace the hopes and dreams she had kept hidden for so long. It was a gesture that spoke of a love that had bloomed in the secret corners of her heart, a love that demanded to be acknowledged. The days turned into weeks, and as Martha gazed at her husband, Farah, struggling to articulate his words and lost in confusion. Hello. She felt a wave of sorrow wash over her. The once vibrant artist, now trapped in the labyrinth of his own mind, had ceased to create in his beloved workshop. Marta, with unwavering determination, took up the mantle of caretaker for Farah, her soulmate. They returned to the comforting embrace of her mother, who devoted every waking moment to tending to Farah's needs, providing round-the-clock care. Farah's decline was swift and merciless. His once agile body now failed him. Forgetting the simplest of tasks like walking or eating, Martha, burdened with guilt, arrived home one evening after a long day's work, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. The weight of when she arrived home, a sense of unease enveloped the street. Neighbors gathered, holding on to Farah's poor mother, who was on the verge of collapsing. The sorrow in her eyes was palpable, a reflection of the pain that gripped her soul. It was a heartbreaking one that spoke volumes of the tragedy that had befallen their small community. Farah's mother, in a desperate act of kindness towards her son, who stood there watching, unable to move, almost forgetting how to breathe. She believed she understood his silent plea, his eyes begging for relief from the suffering that had consumed him. End my pain, mother, end it, please. His silent cries echoed in her heart. The mother, with trembling hands, took hold of a pillow, slowly approaching her son. Marta, a witness to this heart-wrenching moment, could not bear to see Farah's once robust body, the young man she had fallen in love with, now reduced to a lifeless form, exposing the fragility that had overtaken him in his final days. She had failed to notice the extent of his decline until understanding her pain. Marta immediately agreed, filled with guilt, thinking that perhaps that was the only thing that could save her from the hour of hellish regret, surrendering her life to God. As I finished narrating Marta's story, my cousins listened attentively. They were already familiar with this tale, albeit with some differing details. It was common among families for stories to evolve, with some omitting details in their retelling, while others embellished the memories in a literary manner. We were inseparable